Ifunanya did not notice the moment her life began to change. There was no announcement, no sudden tragedy, no single event she could point to and say, "It started here." It happened quietly. At first, it was a postponed opportunity. A job she had prepared for, prayed over, imagined herself in, slipped away without explanation. She told herself it was fine. Something else would come. Something always does. Then a relationship, one she had carried with both hands, careful and hopeful, ended in a way that left no room for questions, only silence. She tried to be dignified about it. People admired her strength. "You're handling it so well," they said. She smiled. That was easier than explaining the emptiness. Time moved, as it always does, but not in the direction she expected. The future she had once arranged neatly in her mind began to loosen at the edges. Plans she had trusted started to feel unreliable. Still, she kept going. She prayed. She served. She showed up, but something within her began to shift. Not suddenly, but steadily, like a tide pulling away from the shore. She spoke less, laughed less, expected less. It wasn't sadness in the dramatic sense. It was quieter than that. A kind of internal dimming, as though parts of her were folding in on themselves, conserving energy, waiting for something she could not name. There were nights she sat at the edge of her bed, not crying, not speaking, just present with a question that refused to take shape. What is happening to me? She did not like the answers that came, because the truth was, she no longer recognized the person she had become. The girl who once believed things would align if she simply did her part, now hesitated. The certainty she carried had thinned into something fragile. Even her prayers changed, not in faith, but in tone. They became shorter, simpler, sometimes incomplete. "God, I don't understand." That was all she could manage on certain days. And yet, in that stripped-down honesty, something unfamiliar began to take root. It was not relief, not joy, but steadiness. She started to notice small things, how she no longer rushed conversations, how silence no longer threatened her, how she could sit with herself without immediately trying to fix what felt broken. The urgency that once defined her began to loosen its grip. She was still waiting, but she was no longer chasing. Life, from the outside, had not changed much. There were no dramatic breakthroughs, no sudden resolutions, but internally, a quiet reconstruction was taking place. She became more patient, not because she chose to be, but because she had no other option. She became more discerning, not out of wisdom, but out of necessity. She became more herself, though she would not have described it that way at the time. It was only much later, in a moment that felt almost ordinary, that she understood. She was standing in front of a mirror, adjusting her hair, preparing for a day that did not seem particularly important. But something in her reflection held her attention. There was a calmness there that had not existed before. Not the bright, effortless confidence she once had, but something deeper. Earned. She looked at herself a little longer than usual, and then it came to her. Not as a grand revelation, but as a quiet knowing. She had not been losing herself. She had been outgrowing a version of herself that could not survive the life she was being prepared for. The waiting had not taken from her. It had reshaped her. Sometimes, it feels like you're losing yourself while waiting on God, but really, you're just becoming someone you've never been before. Some seasons don't come to reward you immediately. They come to reshape you. And in that quiet, often uncomfortable process, you don't lose yourself. You become someone your future can recognize.